Well, what is up, Blues fans? After a huge 4-3 overtime win against the Vancouver Canucks, your St. Louis Blues are in a playoff position. They currently hold the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. Who would have thought? What an exciting run it's been so far. Can the Blues hold on to this spot? Can they make the playoffs in the wildcard spot? What are we seeing from the Blues in the past couple of games that's been encouraging? Where do the Blues need to adjust? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode of Note News. The Blues are in a playoff spot. Who would have thought, man? Here on March 21st, they hold the second wild card. As I said, super exciting stuff. We're going to talk about the game itself. We're going to talk about this race as a whole, how we're feeling about the Blues. We'll talk specific player performances. But if you are new to Note News, welcome, man. It's John and Alec with you as always. We're a St. Louis Blues podcast. We go live twice a week. We talk all things Blues, on ice results, up at the big league club. We also talk prospects, rumors, draft, all that stuff, all things Blues. So if you love the Blues and that sounds interesting to you, then subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting pretty close to 300 here, so help us clear that final hurdle. I think we got less than 10 to go for that. So if you haven't already, hit that button. We really appreciate it. Like this video. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you prefer audio, you can follow and rate wherever you listen. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod, where we post a lot of other great stuff, announce when we're going live, all that good stuff. But if you haven't heard already, we're doing a giveaway over on our Twitter account. We're giving away a free Cardinals hockey jersey, St. Louis Cardinals hockey jersey. So go check that out. All you got to do is the instructions are in the tweet. It's pinned in our profile, but follow our Twitter, retweet, and then you're entered. That's all you got to do. And then if you subscribe to our YouTube and post proof of that in the comments on the tweet, then that's a double entry. So double your chances. So go check that out. Really appreciate all the support so far, but that's enough yapping. Alec, the Blues are in a playoff spot. What a game. I think that game took a couple weeks off of my life.
Yeah.
But that OT winner from Philip Broberg, that felt good. Good to get the 2 points. A little disappointing, the way that they gave up a point. But hey, a win is a win. 2 points are 2 points. We'll talk about sort of all the implications of that. But starting out, what are your reactions to this game? It was an exciting one.
I mean, you have to feel nothing but good about it. It was like an instant classic, but just a weird one to watch. Certainly, I think I hope that they can kind of learn from this experience, and especially when it isn't about points. Fingers crossed if the rest of the season goes well. When it's not about points and it's just about win or lose. Some of those overtime or empty net goal chances that they were sort of lackadaisical about. Anything can happen. Nothing is guaranteed. And I think that hopefully they can learn from this. But yeah, what a game. What a must-win game. And hey, we can at least take solace that Calgary, it could not have had a worse outcome. And they do have the most games in hand still. So at least, even though Vancouver is now a point closer than they could have been, Calgary is that much more ground to make up for two teams now instead of being tied with the Canucks. So maybe there's a silver lining there, but yeah, what a win. What a crazy game. I haven't had my heart beating like that since the last time the Blues were in the playoffs, and I am beyond happy to be sitting here, and I am proud to say that I was wrong about this team, that they can make the playoffs. Of course, in the recent weeks, I've been thinking that was a possibility, but it took a lot. It took a lot for me to buy in and finally believe in the playoff race. I think post Four Nations is when I finally converted to a true believer.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not be happier to say that I am wrong. I was wrong. And here we are in a playoff spot. The St. Louis Blues are in a playoff spot. How about that?
Yeah, dude, it was like you said, had the heart racing. They truly embodied the spirit of March Madness on that one. But what would your reaction have been before this season? And I know like you sort of hinted at it already that you were wrong, but what would your reaction have been before this season if I told you that on March 21st you'd wake up and the Blues would be in a playoff spot?
I I mean, it was always a chance. I think it was always, some percentile. Um, mostly, I would have thought that everything had been going right, and I think a lot of things have been going right. But really, there's been a lot of internal growth that I didn't expect to see so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll get into a lot of the reasons why. But
Yeah,
yeah, I would have been pretty obviously happy, but pretty
yeah,
surprised.
yeah. And I think I would have expected it to be more of like a situation where a couple players had really good seasons, like Robert Thomas repeated his season last year and then some, and then Jordan Kyrou broke through maybe a little bit. Like I think I would have thought it was more of that, whereas what we've seen is that this team is more than the sum of its parts, and they are just like playing so cohesively and really gelling together as a unit, and that's how they're finding success. So I think like the way they found that success is a little different than maybe I would have thought before the season. But I think this is, you know, like miles and miles better than that. The fact that it is a whole team effort and they are, finding success as a unit rather than relying on a few individuals. So yeah, I mean, similar question here, but obviously it was disappointing to see them give up the game tying goal like right at the end of the third period. It was a tough sequence, right? So Justin Falk has the puck in the defensive zone, has like room to skate it, decides to lift it out of the defensive zone, puts a little bit too much on it. It goes into the Canucks bench. Then there's a face off in the defensive zone. And Quinn Hughes finds Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson finds Brock Besser, and Brock Besser finds the net. So it was like it all happened so fast. It was tough. I mean, like, and it's not Justin Falk's fault entirely. There were some other mishaps. Like they probably could have and should have scored an empty net goal there. They had a couple good chances and just kind of whiffed on that opportunity. But it is disappointing that they gave up the extra point. But what would you have said before the game if I told you that the Blues would win, but it would just come in overtime? Like, do you have any thoughts there?
I mean, before the game, gosh, my hair is gonna be so annoying today. I mean, before the game, I think, and even after the game, like a win is a win.
Yeah.
Those 2 points are necessary, are huge, and to win over the Canucks, certainly it's annoying that they got an extra point, just as it would have been annoying if we played, I don't know, the Ducks and the Canucks won that night or went to overtime and lost that night. It would have been annoying, but winning this game was more important than anything else. Obviously, regulation would have been a lot better,
Hmm.
but I do think I don't really. I'm not that upset with it going to overtime. The way it
Yeah.
went to overtime, I am upset with.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got the win sort of levels all misgivings in my mind. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would have been. I think I would have had a very similar reaction before the game if I had known that we were still going to win the game, even if it went to overtime. That okay, just get me the jump over Vancouver, because now like our fate is in our hands.
Yeah. I'd say so for sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty well put. Not upsetting that it went to overtime, just upsetting how it went to overtime is really the big thing. But um, yeah, I mean, this game was electric, and it was obviously like the closest thing that we have had to playoff hockey in what almost 3 years. This is
Oh yeah,
that's part of why it was so exciting. Like I think I texted you yesterday morning that I was feeling nervous, and I think a lot of Blues Nation was feeling that way, but they did get the
literally.
win. But like, yeah, literally. So this is like the closest thing we've had to playoff hockey in so long. How do you think the Blues measured up? How do you think they lived up to this sort of challenge of high stakes hockey that has big implications down the stretch here?
I I think, admittedly, I am going to fail as my job as a podcast host today. because I think I'm going full fan mode right now, just with how exciting the game was watching it. I don't think I can really separate that. I mean, it's certainly like really a really exciting thing that they won it in the way that they won it. And I will say that this is totally me being a fan above all else, but I'm sorry. I think we're so back. I think this means that we are like back to being a team in the Western Conference worth respecting. And to see like all of the national hockey media talking about, I mean, both playoff races, but the Blues being at the forefront of the Western Conference race, and all of the, the NHL Network piece that ran this morning, if you saw that, or all the accounts on Twitter, social media, everything is saying like, this is not a team I want to play right now. Like,
Exactly.
I seriously think that this is the Blues, the way they're playing right now, are a force to be reckoned with. Aren't just like, I think was it last year's Capitals team that were the wild card too and
Hmm.
just got
Hmm.
walloped. Like
Yeah.
everyone knew that they were just going to
Yeah.
get dog walked.
Hmm.
That this is not a wild card 2 team that you could take for granted. I'd argue we're better than the wild card 1 team. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'd say so.
I think the way that they won, playing such a hard competitive game against, in my opinion, I think Vancouver plays just such a boring style of hockey, especially when Quinn Hughes isn't on the ice. Which, oh man, watching that game too, like, did he hit 30 minutes of ice time? I mean, obviously
My
not
gosh.
really, but like, I swear he was never not on the ice.
They rely on him
Anyways,
so much. It's crazy.
they so overuse him. But I mean, he is one of the, probably 15 best skaters in the league. Anyways, back to
Yeah.
Blues talk. Yeah, I really do think that
Alec, he did break 30 minutes of ice time last night.
you're. Oh my god,
30 minutes and 18 seconds.
I'm actually stunned. That poor man.
It's kind of crazy. Poor Quinn
Wow,
Hughes.
no wonder he has such darkness in his eyes. Um,
Yep.
Good lord. Yeah, we're good thing we're not Vancouver. My goodness. Um, no, but I seriously feel like the Blues right now are a team to be reckoned with, and I'm trying to be like analytical and trying to not entirely be biased about this, but I'm seriously just watching the games. I haven't gone into watching a game as a fan and saying we don't have a chance to win this game right now, and
Hmm.
that's just so exciting. I think we're so back.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think they really did, live up to this moment. They showed resilience. I think like that's the big word to me is resilience. That even when you like have that momentum sucked away, where you just are kind of smothering them and not giving up any chances the other way, to go down, you know, to be up by one to going down by one pretty quickly. Like it was kind of a sad moment, like as a fan watching that and just feeling so it was deflating is what it was. But the
Yeah,
way that they, and specifically Tyler Tucker, just said no, um, let's get back on top here, and then a quick 2 goals to get back on top, that was huge. So the way they made that turnaround, and then another sort of like deflating, getting the heart ripped out of you way to give up the tying goal right at the end there. Like they still bounced back and played a solid period of overtime. Really good, puck handling and possession and puck protection in overtime, as we've sort of seen from them a fair bit this season. So I think that's like the biggest thing is just the resilience that they showed, and I feel like that is one of the words of the season. Honestly, just resilience in the face of
oh
adversity,
yeah.
and all the ways that they have faced it and seen it. Um, they have lived up to the challenge to this point and did again last night. And um, I think if that's like the brand of hockey that they bring to the, if they make the playoffs and that's the brand of hockey that they bring with them, they could make some problems for the teams in the West there. So um, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit on that note, but this is exciting, man. This is really exciting. It's been a really fun first season to cover here on the Note News Pod. But yeah, the Blues hold the second wild card spot right now. I think we should sort of get into some specifics, what we're seeing, um, get more into player performances, unit performances, things like that, that we've seen over the past couple games. I believe the last time we talked was after the Anaheim win and before the Nashville win, I want to say.
Hmm.
So a couple games have passed, and um, a couple wins have passed. So let's talk about what we've seen over the past week here. What do you want to start with? There's sort of a lot to break down, but what stands out to you the most? We can sort of do this like we one of our segments is high note, low note, that we like to bring in. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start on a high note or start on a low note?
Oh, hi now.
High note. All right. So what have you seen in these past couple games that's been encouraging for the Blues down the stretch here?
I have seen that I cannot wait to watch the next Kyrie's under contract until 31. What, 6 years, I believe, of Holloway and Kyrie on a line together. I
Yeah.
mean, Holloway and Kyrie's chemistry is just unmatched right now.
Yeah.
They complement each other's styles so perfectly. They're very similar types of player, and honestly, I really think that they've learned a lot from each other throughout the course of this season. Holloway, obviously, a very skilled. Was he a first round pick? I don't
I
have that off the top of my head.
think
Um,
so.
but highly
I'll check that.
drafted.
Yeah.
Kairu was drafted, I want to say 46 off the top of my head, but within, the top 50 or a high second round pick ish. So two guys with a lot of skill, and have very similar games, but Holloway took a lot more pride in his defense, and defense was one thing we were calling Kairu to increase and or to improve upon
Hmm.
in seasons previous versus Dylan Holloway, who seemed to pretty much just be this ball of energy and speed. But
Yeah. Holloway was 14th overall, first round.
okay. Um, so Holloway didn't really have necessarily the offensive creativity, but showed a lot of flashes of prowess, of just raw skill, and just didn't
Hmm.
really know how to use that in the Oilers system. I think having them play together, they're almost like learning from each other. Like Kyrou is learning more how to use his stick and his decently sized frame to just be a nuisance and be in the way, which has
Hmm.
made his defense amazing. And Holloway has taught him more about, stick handling and not just taking a one man show, the whole way up the neutral zone and into the offensive zone. I think they really have found a perfect play style that complements each other. And if you can get like a facilitator center with them, like a Braden Shen, or looking to the future, a Robert Thomas,
Hmm.
perhaps future first line of Kyrou, Thomas, and Holloway. That is a dynamite first line.
That'd be sweet.
But yeah, I really think that this season has been Kyrou's there's a word I'm looking for. I can't remember what it is, but like coming to like the completion of his arc, or at least like the next step in his perhaps future growth. But even if this is
Uh-huh.
as good as Kyra ends up getting, that is like hit of a draft pick. This is
Oh, for sure.
going to be a long time Blues success, as well as acquiring Holloway in the now infamous across the league offer sheet moves. I think everyone is going to start thinking about RFAs a little differently because of our guy Dougie Dimes. But yeah, I mean, I just love watching them play together, and it's truly like magical, the type of perfect like synchronization they have. It's like watching like a figure skating duo or something. Like they just perfectly parallel each other in a way that's just it's I don't know if intoxicating is the right word to use here, but I mean it's just fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
So Kairu and Holloway, I hope that they are playing on a line for the next 6+ years of Blues hockey, because
Yeah.
wow, we haven't seen chemistry like this. I can't remember since when.
Yeah. The Kairu Holloway connection is special for sure. Like just watching them execute a 2-on-1 or a rush chance. They are so good at it. It's amazing to watch. Yeah, like he broke down. Obviously, we know about Kairu's speed. We've known for a little while now. He's an elite skater when it comes to his top speed and how quickly he can get there. But what we've seen is Holloway can be right there with him. He's not quite as fast, but he he can quickly get to 20 miles an hour. And he is also a really quick skater. That was one of the goals of the Blues over the offseason was to get faster. They brought in Texier, Joseph, and Holloway, and it's paid off. If only just in the form of Holloway, I feel like that is worth all the moves that they made in the offseason. And yeah, just watching them execute a 2-on-1, they're both made so much better by the other. It's so awesome to watch, and they're you know both good enough skaters, but also good enough when it comes to being like a shooting threat, a goal threat that it just kind of befuddles the other team's defense. They don't know who's more likely to take the shot. They don't know who to guard or who whether to try to block the shot or block the pass. And obviously that's sort of the case with any 2-on-1. But just like the way these guys do it, they're so fast that you don't have a lot of time to make that decision. And sometimes they get caught, and either opportunity will do. Like they're coming down the ice, and obviously Jordan Kyrou is probably the better shooter and the better goal scorer. But like if Dylan Holloway has the puck and he's bringing it down the ice, he can shoot too. Like he's not necessarily always going to pass it to Kyrou, and so they're just made so much more effective and so much more threatening by the presence of the other. And the chemistry, like you just broke down, is there, and it is real, and it is so fun to watch, and I'm really here for it.
I think one more point on that, like early in Kairu's career, when he really felt like he had to sort of play hero skater, hero ball, and
Yeah.
like do everything himself, that became really easy to defend because if Jordan Kyrou is just going to take it across the blue line the whole way and do it himself, that's you pretty much just have to skate with him and trap him to the wall, and there's not much you can do other than a dump in. Now that Kyrou has become more of a team player, that has made the that has bolstered the strength of his line mates around him. But defending one Jordan Kyrou at this level of skill is really hard. That's a 30 plus goal scorer talent.
Mm-hmm.
With like serious speed, a good strong body, like good stick handling. There's a lot of skill there. So once Kyrou became more of a team player, that really, as I said, like made things a lot harder to just mentally defend, let alone the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
physical execution of it. Then you throw Dylan Holloway into the mix, and now that he's come into his own as a very similar style of player, defending one Jordan Kyrou is bad. Defending two Jordan Kyrous and a Jordan Kyrou who honestly likes to hit a lot more than Kyrou does sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
You get someone at their decent size and weight skating at you at like 20 miles an hour with the puck on their stick, and it's your job to stop both of them at the same time. Like,
Good luck.
that's not a fun assignment.
Yeah, not at all. Super fun to watch the chemistry sort of blossom between these two over the entire season. I want to bring it now to the other offer sheet, my boy Philip Broberg, who, if you have watched Note News for a while, you know that I love this. I love this defenseman. He has stolen my heart for sure. But really, what these past couple games have shown me, I don't have to wax poetic about him every time, but I just want to, you know, just the excitement of this game and him having the game winning goal, I think deserves a shout out here. He to me like has in the past couple games and really all season, but shown how good an example he is of sort of the modern NHL defensive defenseman. It used to be like all about size and that kind of thing, like size and strength and that stuff, and that's still important for sure. But I think what we're seeing in the defenseman position, the development that we've seen is towards a defenseman that is more about skating and that kind of thing. And you have, your offensive defensemen like Lane Hudson and people like that who are obviously are great skaters. But I'm talking about like skating as a standout tool to use on defense, which is what Philip Broberg excels at. Like skating is obviously his best tool, but he also sees the game at a really high level, and that I've sort of broken it down a couple times. It allows him to defend really effectively with body positioning and just reading the play, understanding what's going to happen before it does, and being really, really good at breaking it up, disrupting it, moving up and checking rather than just trying to defend against a shot, things like that. Make him such a great defender. But what we saw last night was that skating ability also allows him to join the rush and transition and makes him a real big threat on offense as well. He buried the game-winning goal, obviously, in overtime, but he had a couple good shots and good opportunities earlier in the game as well. I think he hit the crossbar on one of them or the post or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and it was so close, but I think he was skating too fast and couldn't get the shot off quick enough because of how well he was moving. But like, he is such a good skater, and I have really enjoyed seeing how that benefits him on both sides of the puck. But that game-winning goal was electric and made all the more sweet by Philip Broberg being the one to bury it. That was awesome. Anything to add on Broberg?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even know that I would consider Broberg like a defensive defenseman. I think he's one of the standout two-way guys in of like young. I mean, we are seeing kind of, in my opinion, I think we're seeing kind of a defensive resurgence in the NHL. I think there's
Yeah.
the talent at defense right now is as good as it has been since probably like the dead puck era or like the late 90s. Um, just the amount of elite, and even just great players that, yeah. So, anyways, Broberg, I think, is just an incredible two-way defenseman, and his finishing ability is more so like as a defenseman. It isn't even necessarily like his ability to bury chances when he gets passed to, down low or in the slot, because he's not really going to get those opportunities because he's a defenseman. And it's funny you brought up Lane Hudson, who's pretty much a winger who plays defense,
Yeah.
but it's more so just his patience as a skater and as like an attacker. I mean, you look at the overtime goal he scored last night, going back to last month where he had 2 goals against Washington. He's got a great shot and is able to locate it decently well, but his patience when he does crash the net, which the Blues have really been using this like crash the net style of offense, that's been
Mm-hmm.
working so incredibly well for them. Um, he's so, yeah, I just keep, and I think it's the same thing with this skating. I think he's so patient. He doesn't overreact to anything. It's not going to be like Torrey Krug or Justin Falk, who are undersized guys, so they kind of have to make up for those deficiencies
Mm-hmm.
with just quick twitch like reactions, and have to throw their bodies every which way just to hopefully be in the right place. Broberg lets the game come to him. It's like you can see the game speed slow down in real time for Philip Broberg when he gets the
Yeah.
puck on his stick, and when he doesn't have the puck on his stick and he's skating backwards defending. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's so confident and cool and calm and collected, and it is just like addictive. Like he's just so much fun. So
Yeah.
I like you said earlier, like even if Holloway becomes the only offseason move that hits for something, that was really significant. Broberg's right there with him. I mean,
Broberg
like
rocks, dude.
we got exactly. That's the best way you could have summed that up. Broberg rocks.
Yeah. Once we get a home sweater on the market for Broberg, I'm snatching that up ASAP. Yeah,
Love it.
I love Philip Broberg. I think we should talk about the rest of the defense too, because we'll talk a little bit. We've got a Colton Parayko update that we'll touch on a little bit later, but obviously he's been out of the lineup for a little bit. Um, I think the decor has really stepped up. That's one of my big takeaways here, and some more than others, obviously. But what have you seen from the core of defensemen? We just sort of broke down Broberg, but what else have you seen from these guys that encourages you? Because I think overall it is encouraging what we've seen from them. And so, yeah, what have you seen?
Yeah, I think we can still call this a high note. That the defense really, I think in the past couple games, the defense have stepped up offensively, or at least in
Mm-hmm.
like the point production level. Tyler Tucker scoring that goal, which, if I'm being honest, like it was a great shot, great awareness to take that shot. It was kind of just a lucky goal. Just I think if we're a little bit, I would say. Hey, I guess maybe that's just me. But I really do think that we're seeing the defense step up offensively and being
Yeah.
really more willing to get involved on offensive plays instead of just passing it out to the winger on either side and then having like Thomas or Kyrie or Matthew Joseph or whoever's there like do something down in the slot with it. They're willing to crash that zone more and have like I remember I can't remember who the player was exactly, but I remember Cam Fowler was back on the defense and his defensive partner skating back to defend the 2-on-2 was Zach Bolduc, because I guess
Mm-hmm.
if it was
Yeah.
Fowler, it was probably
Letty.
yeah, Letty was the other guy involved in the offensive play, and Jim Montgomery and the coaching staff have been able to establish that as a potential option, and the defense from the forwards has been so good that that's not even a worry. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're really seeing defensemen get more involved in the play. Don't feel like they're playing so timid that like they only have to like dump pucks off in the offensive zone. Essentially, it really lets us feel like the structure and just the way that they're playing right now feels so good to watch, and it feels so sustainable. Like this is why I'm bought back on this team now, outside of them being in a freaking playoff spot, is because like everything about it looks so good and looks like it's done right. It's done
Mm-hmm.
in a way that it's going to lead to more success. um like it's all such complementary hockey, and it really feels like every player, every skater on the ice has a significant role to play in the middle of their shift. Like they aren't all, it's not just like they're one note, you're going to do this and you're going to do it really well. It's dynamic, and that makes it harder to react to, and
Mm-hmm.
that makes it harder to defend and harder to stop. And for that reason, I really think that the Blues have become just this offensive like wagon kind of, because they have five active threats on the ice. Even if it's Matthew Joseph and Alexei Toropchenko and these guys who aren't typically, dangerous offensive threats, we've seen them be able to be really involved and create great opportunities just because the spacing and the way that they're able to manipulate the opponent's team to the essentially like however they want. It'll create Matthew Joseph on a breakaway like wide open in the slot. And sure, he isn't the most talented shooter, doesn't have the most prolific NHL career, but that's a good high danger look. That puts pressure on the defense, that scares the goalie, that scares their team, that makes them like think like, oh shoot, we have to catch up to these guys now. I mean, Toropchenko scored one of the goals of the season against was it Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Um,
Pittsburgh.
yeah, of just like they were so focused in on defending the structure of how that they had been playing it, that Toropchenko saw that he had like 60 feet of open ice, being hyperbolic, of course, but was able to just take it basically coast to coast and score like a McDavid style goal. Now I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
off the defense here, so let me recenter it. That just this is really a high note for the team, because you're seeing guys like Nick Leddy take more chances and like putting pucks at the net because we have strong physical play in front of the net. That was always something the Blues were good at. Braden Shen, now Dylan Holloway, Zach Bolduc are so good in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
Toropchenko just being 6'6", like they're really able to complement each other's skill set like that. Justin Falk has been taking more chances, scored an absolute bomb against Nashville that I don't know that you would have seen him take a shot like that under a Drew Bannister system, or maybe even under a Craig Berube system, because I think you would have seen him try and dump it off to his winger and let them take more of the shot. But instead, they're playing more in your face, crash down, dominate the center of the ice net, not necessarily trying to get too cute, not necessarily trying to use too much skill and like, pick corners essentially. They're like a freight train barreling through defenses right now, and no one has found an answer for it. And man, it is fun.
Yeah, yeah, great breakdown there. Just to sort of recap what we've seen from the decor, really, like since Colton Parayko's absence, he went down in the game against the Kings on March 5th. Since then, in 7 games, including that game, actually, Cam Fowler has 7 assists in 7 games. I think after Colton Parayko was injured, that's one of the things we talked about, that Cam Fowler needs to step up, and he's probably not going to replicate the scoring of Colton Parayko when it comes to goals, but he can find that point production on the playmaking side, assisting goals, and we've gotten it, and so that's a great to see from Cam Fowler. I mean, Letty is like a non-zero, right? He's overall been a positive, not necessarily showing up in the points column a lot, which is fine. That's not who he is, but I don't think he's been the Nick Letty that we saw in the first few games of the season where we were like, get this guy off the ice. Um, Not at all. And so I think Cam Fowler, it's like his superpower is just like leveling up his D pair, his buddy alongside him. Like Parayko leveled up once Cam Fowler came over, and it looks like Letty has stabilized a little bit. Broberg, we just talked about. Broberg rocks. Not Falk. Falk has for the most part, been fine. He's been okay. Like you said, he scored that goal. Um, Mishap from last night aside, he's been fine. Like I haven't hated his play recently. And then Tyler Tucker has stepped up big time. So I've really liked what we've seen from all these guys. But I just sort of want to echo on you. You started to get to this point, and I think this is a sort of a good segue into that, is talking about like just the offensive style of crashing the net. One thing that I've really liked is that their offensive zone entries have been excellent. Like they enter the zone with speed. We talked about that from Kyrou and Holloway. Don't count out Alexei Toropchenko either. He's one of the fastest skaters on this team, and has used that to generate some solid offense at times, but more so just generating some solid chances. I think he's a really good forechecker, and I think that's been on display in the past couple games as well. Just I think if he could get a line mate that was also solid on the forecheck, we might see the torpo meter take off a little bit more. I think he's sort of can be hampered by the I don't know. I mean, Radek Faksa isn't the fastest guy out there, so I think if he had someone who could skate down with him quickly, and that Torpo could find in the slot and just get off a quick chance, like that could help him out a lot. But bringing it back to sort of the zone entries, like they enter with speed, as I said, but they also enter with structure. You like pause the feed when they're about to enter the zone. You've got someone carrying the puck, left, right, or middle, and then most of the time you've got those other spots taken. So it's like 3 people entering the zone at the same time with speed at the same time. It's like who do we defend? Because they're coming, and they're all right there at the front. And so I think we've seen them really operate well cohesively. As I said, they're operating as a unit. It looks like they know what the others are thinking, rather than just hoping that Thomas or Kyrou can make some magic happen. We talked about that on the power play last episode, but also at 5-on-5. I think if we were relying on Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou to just be a star, and that's our game plan, that wouldn't really work, and we wouldn't see the Blues in a playoff spot right now. But the offense, to me, as you said, has been really smart, and I really like the way they've executed those zone entries. Do you have anything to add on that point? You want to break it open a little bit more?
I mean, I think you did break it down pretty well, that they've been really dictating line or play at the at the blue line, like whether it's entering the zone or the opposing team enter the zone, which is why I think the defense has been so good, is that they're so good at restricting the like freedom of zone entries. But yeah, on the offensive side, they've been really like just everything. I mean, everything is better. They still do play dump and chase hockey, which you have to for any team. I felt like that was something that the Blues did a lot of, and there just was very little effort previously.
Hmm.
I think their effort, has been a lot better in that regard. Like just having a back checker like put more pressure on the defense, which doesn't allow them to gain the neutral zone before your line change is complete. And I think that they've done a much better job like having trailers so that someone can gain the blue line and then drop it off, who can then like make a pass to the break side and yeah, just like manipulate zones so well. Like they can just control and dictate the pace of play so well with this Jim Montgomery structure. It's truly night and day
Yeah, it
from
really
what
is.
we had seen, but the talent was always there, obviously. And yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's Jim Montgomery's superpower is like finding that talent and figuring out how to put it together. And so that's been awesome. I want to sort of another thing that I've seen here that sort of helps the offense along a lot. Um, they've just been so good in transition in general. Like they've been really good about checking at the blue line, right? Meeting the opposing team's offense at the blue line as they are trying to enter the zone rather than just hanging back and letting them come to you, coming downhill and then hoping for the best. You can get your body or your stick in the way. Been really good about meeting them at the blue line and forcing them to chip the puck in. But what they've been great about is quickly transitioning that back out into offense. We saw it a lot last night against Vancouver, and a big part of that is the defense, right? Solid defensive positioning has been big, meeting them at the blue line, as I said, but also like effective puck handling from our goalies that has helped a lot. Like Bennington and Hofer being confident as puck handlers helps a ton with that. They can, you know, get it out under pressure, and they're willing to go back there and grab it and just swing it right back around the other side. And um, obviously, the speed that we've talked about a lot already today from our forwards mostly really helps with that. And it's kind of crazy to watch how quickly they're just able to turn a offensive zone entry from the other team into an offensive zone entry of their own. And so um, that's been big. And one of the big phrases that we've used is a lot this season, mostly revolving around their turnaround this season, is that defense begets offense. And I think that was on display last night for sure. Um, Last thing I want to touch on here in the high note section before we talk about a couple things that the Blues need to keep an eye on is just the power of friendship, man. Uh, these guys, how valuable is the team culture and the locker room identity that's building here? Like one of the things that I have loved seeing more than anything on my feed, in addition to all the highlights, offense and defense, in addition to the Bennington love after Four Nations, like that's been a highlight. Like one of the stories of the season is just this like 180 of team identity. Like they seem like they're in a really good spot with their team culture and their and their locker room. But how valuable has that been this season? Do you think?
So valuable. And I mean, you have to talk about Brayden Shen at the top
Yes.
of that discussion.
Yes.
Your captain sets the tone for the franchise, for the players, for like everything in the locker room, and Braden Shen has done an A plus 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 job of that. Eventually at some point we're going to get to end of season grades, reactions, etc. The play of Braden Shen you could debate, all day long, but his importance to this locker room is immeasurable. It's not quantifiable. Um, I think they just have a really, really nice mix of a locker room, and Jim Montgomery is just such a like what's the word? I guess motivator of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the players bought in instantly. Some
Yeah.
of that I think is some of them having played under him previously, and being like used to playing for him. But I mean, even in Boston, like he had that locker room of NHL vets and a skilled team. There could have been a lot of personality clashes. He had no problems with that. Jim Montgomery just seems to be a guy that players want to play for. And St. Louis as a hockey town is being revitalized because of it. And I mean, it's just awesome. So yeah, the locker room, I think you've got such a nice mix of like personalities. Seems like Toropchenko is a guy that the team really does actually enjoy in the
Hmm.
locker room. Matthew Joseph, Jake Neighbors has just always been kind of a guy that everyone just always seems to be smiling around. Yeah, I think you put it perfectly that like, and Holloway and Broberg obviously know like that they're sort of lumped together in this discussion as former Oilers, but
Yeah.
also like it's so fun. You know, there's just I don't really know like how much more analysis I can make on this, but I think you totally pointed it out perfectly.
Yeah.
And I agree.
It's been one of like the big victories in my mind of this season is that turnaround and that like reclamation of hockey is fun. Like keep that in mind, and playing on a team that looks like this is fun. And obviously part of part of why they're having so much fun is that they're winning. Um, but I think it's sort of like a positive feedback loop right now, and it's been awesome to watch from the fan perspective. Um, why don't we go now to low note a little bit here? So what did you see in the past couple games or last night that not necessarily has you worried or concerned, but just something that you think the Blues should keep an eye on or try to remedy with only what 11, 12 games remaining? I think 12, but
12, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I do think there's a couple. I'll do some quick ones before maybe a larger discussion. So, that those empty net chances, I
Yeah.
really hope, as I sort of broke down at the beginning of the episode, I really hope that they like learn from this. Like, if you get the chance to ice a game, don't be so lackadaisical. Anything can happen. Because
Hmm.
that was just a backbreaking, heartbreaking, almost game losing mistake that
Hmm.
Toropchenko had a chance, Buchnevich had a chance,
Yeah.
and Justin Falk obviously had all the time in the world, and nobody took it, and that almost led to a loss, and we wouldn't be in a playoff spot because of that. So
Hmm.
I hope they learn from that. I mean, personally, I think it's tough. I personally feel like Robert Thomas has been kind of quiet.
I agree.
Um, I think that he just hasn't really taken over games like we're used to him seeing. But that being said, I mean, since Four Nations, he is, I'm pulling this up really quick, he is 15 points in 14 games. So, like, I think he's still getting the results, but his shooting percentage is way down. Oh, sorry, actually, in that range, it's 20%. That doesn't feel right. Um, he is winning a lot of
It's
faceoffs, which is huge. Um, I'll go in the last week of play, which would have started with Pittsburgh. So hang on. All right. While I get this to work with me, I still think that I would like to see a little bit more from Thomas.
hmm
Um, I think that he's been getting mostly like secondary assists.
hmm
Okay, this is just strange. In 5 games, he has 5 points. His shooting percentage since Pittsburgh is 0%. So
Yeah.
I guess, but he has six
He's only
shots on
taken,
goal.
yeah, 6 shots.
How is your okay? I don't understand. But he's been
Well,
winning faceoffs, which is huge. Go ahead.
yeah, the shooting percentage is just the percentage of your shots on goal that go in, right? So I guess he just hasn't scored at all since um, the Pittsburgh
Gotcha,
game.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, five
My
assists. And like he's still making
my
plays, but I feel
mistakes.
like yeah, he's still making plays at like a decent rate. I think Jake Neighbors has looked really good and has benefited
Hmm.
from playing with Robert Thomas like we'd like. But yeah, like I think you'd expect Robert Thomas to be shooting a little better for sure.
And he hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't really been like taking over games or like making his presence known. And at the end of the game, he still shows up on a score sheet because he's Robert Thomas. But it feels like there's another level in there for him that he isn't
Yeah.
reaching.
Absolutely.
But I think the big one that I want to talk about is Pavel Buchnevich has
Hmm.
really, I think, gone quiet. I think this season we can kind of call a wash for Buchnevich. Right now, he's sitting at 47 points in 68 games, 14 goals, 33 assists. So, going to finish north of 50 points, probably 15 goals, probably not 20, though. So, like an okay NHL season, but not a Pavel Buchnevich season, who had just been Mr. Consistency before then. His defensive metrics are down. And just overall, I think we all expected to see more from Buchnevich this season. Um, he has gone quiet. As I said, he's not even going to get to 20 goals this year. He's really gone quiet in the goal scoring department. And that's tough for someone who put up 27, 26, and 30 in his last 3 seasons, and those weren't even full seasons. He put up 20 goals in 50 games in his last season in New York. So, like, it's tough for Buchnevich. I think we can definitely bounce back next season, but
Hmm.
it just seems like the one. It seems like he hasn't quite meshed with this new team identity of speed and grit and energy. I hate to be entirely negative, but it does kind of look like his effort level is notably less than what we're seeing from a lot of other players. And I just don't know that he has figured out how to play Jim Montgomery hockey just yet. And I don't really know how that's going to play out, to be honest. But he hasn't been scoring goals. He hasn't really been taking shots. Like I, I, I expected more from Booch this season, especially after just getting paid. But this happens. He is still 29, so he'll be 30 next season. So still not really a risk of like falling off the table, being completely useless. That's not what I'm saying. And this happens sometimes, in your first year of a new contract, even though technically it kicks in next year. But first year of getting that like your family set, that life changing money. In just across sports, we've seen that like mentally you're not as locked in, but definitely looking for a bounce back if, knock on wood, we get to see April and May hockey. Um, Looking to see a bounce back in big games, sort of revitalize him in that way. And even down the stretch, like honestly, like Buchnevich, I don't care about the assist numbers at all. I don't care if you finish under I don't think it's possible to finish under 50 points, but season totals will be what they will be. Just score some goals. Like we need to see something like some goal scoring. And I think that's a big one is the loss of a was once a consistent offensive pressure. His role is now being filled by like Zach Bolduc. So yeah, Buchnevich I think is my big one.
Yeah, I think Thomas and Buchnevich are the big ones. So yeah, agree with everything you said there. I think the other thing that, I mean, it hasn't been like a huge negative, but it's just something that we need to be a little more stable is the goaltending. Um, but shout out to Joel Hofer, who uh, since March 8th, this is his game by game performance since March 8th after a rough game against Dallas, which uh, was, you know, like 2-part rough game, just rough all around. But anyways, since then, against LA, he had a 913 save percentage. They lost that game in OT, but still 913. You take that. You take one goal in regulation. Let's see. He only played like 10 minutes against Pittsburgh, but saved 2 shots. And then against Minnesota, 944 save percentage, only allowed 1 goal on 17 shots. So shout out to the defense for preventing a lot of shots on that one. And then against Nashville this week, huge performance on 23 shots, only gave up 1 goal, had a 957 save percentage. So like he has sort of showed up in recent games, and I think that's one of the things that we talked about that we've talked about in recent episodes. Is just he's not going to get a big opportunity if the Blues make the playoffs to play in the playoffs. So like his time to show up for this team is right now, and to show up on his starts because there's a few back to backs down the stretch here, and so he's going to get some looks here. So especially when they're playing against some easier opponents, like they're going to play the Blackhawks, they're going to play Nashville a couple more times, and so I expect Joel Hofer to get some more starts. And shout out to him for how he has showed up in the recent games that they've played, but I think we need Jordan Binnington to be a little more stable. Last night, I think he did okay, and a lot of that wasn't his fault necessarily, but I think you just need him to be a little bit better on the short side, on the glove side. He allowed 3 goals on only 18 shots, and then sort of going back, rough one against Pittsburgh, not a great one against Anaheim the night before, even though they did get the win. So like, I think you need a little bit more stability from Jordan Binnington. So I don't know if you have anything to add before we move on here because we got some other stuff to talk about. But I think shout out to Joel Hofer, like I said, but then Binnington, we need him to figure it out down the stretch here and have continuously solid performances.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is like you said, if you had told me coming into the season that this was going to be where the Blues were at, I would have thought that it would have been a repeat of Binnington and Hofer's 2023 seasons, which were incredible, and that has been very far from the case. So it's a good thing that they're able to win in spite of that. And imagine what happens if these goalies can level it out. But we're only in a playoff spot by 1 point with our opponents with games in hand. So it's certainly a tight, or not a tight hold. It's I can't think of it exactly, but I would like to see that a lot better. But it's working okay so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Bennington's probably going to get the start against some of the tougher opponents here. They're playing Colorado twice, winning Winnipeg and Edmonton as well. So like, he's probably going to get to face some of the the brass of the Western Conference, and so you need him to show up here. But yeah, I think we should pivot now, talk a little bit more about this wild card race ahead. But before we get there, a couple, one I don't know how big it is. It's tough to say right now, but news and notes. Obviously, Colton Parayko went down on March 5th. At the time, I believe the report was 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, he would be reevaluated and would miss the remainder of the regular season. There's been a little bit of chatter out there that maybe he'll be back sooner than that. I'm looking at Matthew DeFrank's his Twitter. He writes for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Apparently, Jim Montgomery said he doesn't think that Colton Parayko is going to be 6 weeks because of his belief in Parayko and the training staff and their doctors and things like that. Doesn't know how much sooner than 6 weeks, but doesn't expect it to take quite that long. I believe also he was skating today, I want to say. I can't remember where I saw that. But
yes, he was skating with the team in warm-ups.
Yeah, so that's a great sign. So bringing it back to this wild card race here, how big would it be for him to return to the lineup sooner than expected? I mean, like, looking at the last few games of the season, going from the very last game back. So the very last game is on April 15th against Utah. Going back from that, Seattle, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Colorado, into sort of early April. Like, if he can show up in some of those games, how big would that be for the Blues?
Huge. I do think, like, we've seen a lot better of improvement from guys like Nick Leddy and such, but I still don't know that I trust or really like Leddy out there as much as he is. And I really think, that would be huge, absolutely, to get a guy like Parayko back in the lineup, who, just talking about that leadership, like knowing what it takes to win and make a playoff run, like, yes, get me Colton Parayko in that lineup as soon as possible. Obviously, you don't want to rush him back, risking another injury, but I'm super into it.
Yeah, sounds like you think if he does return, Letty is the one that should be ousted. I think I agree. Like, I think Tyler Tucker has earned his spot on the third pair, and um, so I think Letty is kind of the odd man out here. But yeah, if Pareko can pick up where he left off, even if only for a few games, that could wind up, that could end up being a game changer. Bringing back that goal scoring that he found all of a sudden this season and stuff like that. So um, that would be huge. Do you have any other thoughts on sort of the race ahead? Because the Blues have 12 games left. It's going to start out a little easier. They're going to face Chicago tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon rather. Um, then Nashville, Montreal, and Nashville, and then it's going to get a little tougher. They're going to play Colorado, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Colorado again, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle, and Utah. So, do you have any thoughts? Any Has your thinking changed at all over these past couple games this week about the Blues' outlook on the wild card? And obviously, Calgary came back and ended up getting 2 points in their game last night. That was disappointing to see. Um, but yeah, how are you feeling about this wild card race, and what are your thoughts?
I certainly think that okay, I mean, looking ahead, yeah, it's Chicago, Nashville, Montreal, Nashville. 4 games you should be able to win. I don't know that the expectation should be that we win 4 straight. I have a feeling that we're going to drop one of those games, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. Just something about the
Montreal's
Chicago
pretty
game.
hot.
Yeah, Montreal, I could see. Like, I could see us going 2-2 would have me worried, but if they go 3-1 over their next 4, that's totally fine with I think we're still well keeping pace with the. I mean, now we have the playoff spot, in hand, so technically 2-2 is not the end of the world. I would say my overall thoughts haven't changed. That I still think this team can and should be the second wild card. Calgary still has a pretty tough stretch, and Vancouver doesn't exactly have an easy schedule either. So I like our odds, especially now that we took that huge remaining game over Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still be watching Utah. They're further behind in the standings, but I believe they have an easier schedule coming up. And regardless, they're a good hockey team. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I would say overall my feelings haven't really changed, though. But
Yeah, I think as tough as those big Western Conference opponents are, I think you're seeing some of those matchups, like, some similar matchups crop up for the other teams in this race. Calgary is also going to have to play Edmonton and Colorado, as well as Vegas twice down the stretch. They're also going to have to play the Kings. So not easy for them necessarily. Like, they do have games in hand, but they're not necessarily easy games in hand. And then in terms of Vancouver, they're going to have to play both New York teams, New Jersey, Columbus, like all teams that are hanging around the playoff picture, if not in them in New Jersey's case. Um, let's see. Oh, wait, no, I'm talking about Vancouver. Yeah, and then they're going to have to play Winnipeg, Vegas twice as well, Dallas, and Colorado. So it's like, as tough as some of our games look down the stretch here, it is just as tough, if not more so, for these other guys. And so, yes, we need to win the remainder of our games, but so do they. And the Blues are hot right now, and so I think the momentum is in their favor for sure. They've won 4 straight again, which is fantastic. I believe they've won in their last 14 games, they've won 10 of them. So that has come in a 4-game win streak, a 2-game win streak, and then another 4-game win streak. And so um, momentum is in their favor and is on their side. And I think they should be feeling confident. And I think as long as they play with confidence, they can get this wild card spot, because you can. I mean, yeah, I agree. They might drop one of these next 4, but they should be able to win all of them. Like, based on how they've been playing, theoretically, they should be able to win all of them. They should be like they just beat Colorado. They should be able to take one of the remaining games against them. Uh, I'm really itching to see how they look against Winnipeg here. Who, if the playoffs started today, that's who the Blues would be playing first round. How do they match up against them? I think they have looked better and better each time they have played them this season, and so I'm eager to see what they can do against Winnipeg here. Um, yeah, it's an exciting time to be a fan of Blues hockey for sure. Um, one last question I wanna talk about here is we're getting close to the and end of the season, and uh, there were some reports a little bit earlier on in the season that Jimmy Snuggerud would be getting called to St. Louis to play with the big boys once his season wrapped up in college, and so where do you think he slots in? Do you think? I mean, I can tell you what I think is that he probably ousts Nathan Walker from the fourth line, and we see Faxa, Torpo, and Snug on the bottom line there. That is, if he slots in at all, that's where I see him doing that. I think he could really complement the forechecking ability of Toropchenko pretty well. I reached out to Sam over at STL Analytics on Twitter. He said that Snuggerud is a pretty decent forechecker, a little bit better than Neighbors. He's not perfect, but he can execute a forecheck pretty well. And so I think, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the episode, if Toropchenko had another, a partner on his line that could execute a forecheck with him, that could generate some surprising fourth line offense. And so that's sort of where I see Snuggerud coming in and maybe making an impact right away is um, boosting the offense of that line. And then you might, you've got four lines that can score at that point. But do you think that's where he would? And do you think if he does, um, if and when he does come to St. Louis, should he see a lot of playing time? Because we've seen the same 12 forwards rolled out for like I don't know how many games in a row. It's crazy how many games in a row we've gotten the same lineup. Making those lineup cards has gotten really easy down the stretch here because they have rolled out the same lineup. Like, should they mess with that? Should they even put him in the lineup, or do you think it's too good to pass up what he can bring?
Yeah, it's such a tough question. I'm personally of the mindset of like, and this is boring, but it's working really well. I wouldn't touch it,
If it ain't broke.
but it's totally like I totally Snuggerud's skill, his physicality, his like just hard physical play is like tantalizing to see certainly in the NHL. So I wouldn't be upset if they did replace someone in the lineup. I personally would give him probably the Matthew Joseph role, although I think Joseph has some really, really good performances as of late, especially defensively. That's kind of changing my mind that maybe it is the Nathan Walker, but that that like WTF line that's just been the heart and soul of this team. Like that would be the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so tough. It's so tough. That I think Nathan Walker is such a critical part of this team's identity. I'm really not. I think they will call up Snuggerud though, because they said they would, and just they've been sticking to their plan through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Games have changed around them; they haven't changed with them. I think Snuggerud comes up, and he probably takes Walker's spot for better or worse, though.
Yeah, I'm sort of a similar mindset that if it is still working, I probably wouldn't touch that. But if it is a situation where they've hit a bit of a speed bump or something like that, um, or the fourth line becomes a weakness, like the lack of offense there. Not that you need your fourth line to be providing offense or anything like that, but you'll take what you can get there. And so like if it is something where it's like we need scoring, every like people are going quiet, then yeah, I would try to shake it up. And I think he is so good at hockey, and um, I know real good analysis here, but what he can bring to the table offensively might just be too good to pass up. And so
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
either way, I don't think I'd be that upset. Whatever we see down the stretch. But yeah, this has been a fun one. The Blues are in a playoff spot right now. Who would have thought, going into the season that's what we'd be saying here today? And they have been really exciting in the way that they've done it, winning a lot lately. It's a good time to be a Blues fan. And so if you are a Blues fan and you've enjoyed our episode here, really appreciate if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 300. I think we're like 8 away or something like that. We're under 10. So help us hit that milestone. That would be huge. We'd really appreciate that. Um, like this video. We're doing a giveaway over on Twitter. We're giving away a St. Louis Cardinals hockey jersey. Super cool. We're giving it away for free. All you got to do is it's pinned in our profile on Twitter at Note News Pod. Follow our account and retweet that tweet that's pinned in our profile. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and post proof of your subscription in the comments over there, you'll get an extra entry, double your chances. So it's really easy, really straightforward. But yeah, help us grow our platform here. We appreciate all the support so far. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow and rate wherever you listen, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. You can follow along with us over there. We post shorter videos like reels and things like that. We post memes, graphics, and we also announce when we're going live. So if you don't want to miss an episode, be sure to follow us there. But thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time on Note News. And let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues. Make the playoffs.